Good morning, my friends. Hope you're having a lovely day. I am on my way to work as usual here on a lovely, beautiful Monday morning after kind of a murky weekend. And I want to talk again about sort of art and creativity with you here on Morning Zoo with Ken and the Bear. Hey, Bear. Anyway, I watched on Friday the production of Rocky Horror Picture Show. Wow, this is rough. Okay, on Fox, starring Laverne Cox and Adam Lambert was in it. Well, basically, my inarticulate rage has subsided. I'm sure it was hilarious to listen to me, as Daniel Greenwolf will attest, because he listened to me watch and heard me screaming at the screen inarticulately or with nothing but expletives. He saw me storm out of the room on many, many occasions during the course of it. And what I wanted to talk about is not that specific horrific interpretation of one of my favorite pieces of theater and film. Angry. Oh, I'm back. All right. All right, we're back. That is super frustrating. Anyway, I want to talk about why that specific piece of cinema irritated me so much. Not because of the performances, which were basically good, not because of the arrangements, which were basically bad, in my opinion, to be fair, but because of the direction, which was universally bad. Even in the highlights, which I thought was hot patootie, I thought Adam Lambert did a great job. I thought Columbia was actually sort of a fun interpretation as a candy raver, interesting, kind of fun. But here's my issue. In reinterpreting a piece of established theater, or a film, a reboot, remake, whatever, or a piece of artwork, within an art class, unless you're doing a direct reproduction, this doesn't really happen as much in literature, although, we've got Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and a few other of those types, and there's parody, of course, and cover songs it happens with. The essence of what you're doing is supposed to be finding a piece of that piece that you're recreating to tell a new story with it, to get a new piece out of it, or to preserve it as history, as is many times done with classical works of theater, Shakespeare, Marlowe, Jonson, that kind of thing. And of course there are non-English varieties. English being England, there are plenty of classical French theater and Greek and Chinese and Japanese and whatnot. All the same thing. Sometimes it is totally valid to reproduce it as close to historically accurate as you can, because there's something to be learned there about the way those were done. But that's not what was happening here. What seemed to be happening here was, let's take a piece of theater that was brought to the screen faithfully by the writer, in large measure, and take its core message, which was countercultural, which was about sexual and personal growth and exploration and experimentation and acceptance, and completely eliminate that. There was no sexual expression here. There was no sexual exploration. There was no counterculturalism. So all of that was taken away from the new production, which makes me ask, as someone who wants to look at a piece of theater and be critical of it, what is the goal? What is this interpretation attempting to communicate? If it's not counterculturalism, if it's not alternate sexuality, if it's not acceptance of difference, if it's not celebration of difference, what is it? So I look at it and I see Brad and Janet, the two protagonists. In the original production, as I interpret it, Brad and Janet represent this was produced in the 70s, the classic suburban, middle-class, white bread, in the broader term, American couple. They work. He works a job, she stays home. They're about to get married and start a family. They're going to do all of the things that you're supposed to do. And that's who they are at the beginning of the production, beginning of the show. Brad sings a whole song about how he wants to do this. What's going on underneath, and what is revealed throughout the course of the production as they go through their adventures in Dr. Frankenfurter's house, classically played in the film by Tim Curry, who also appeared in this as the criminologist, sort of a narrator of the whole piece. They discover that very different journeys that end in the same place. Janet learns that she can express her largely repressed and not allowed in general society sexuality. That it's okay for her to feel sexual. She sings this whole song, touch me, I wanna be dirty. Like she learns about how she can be sexual and still love herself and still be okay with who she is. Brad, on the other hand, learns that he doesn't have to have control all the time. He doesn't have to be the boss. He doesn't have to do all those things to be happy and to be accepted. He can give up control. He can be strong in other ways and supportive in other ways. And he learns that pure traditional masculinism is not required for him, and he has that journey. And both are valuable lessons. They don't have the same journey in this, despite singing the same songs, despite having the same framework and experiences. These characters don't go through the same journey. They just suddenly become sexualized. In my interpretation, they just suddenly become sexual, and that is not as interesting a story to me. So if Brad and Janet aren't the lesson here, is it Frankenfurter? Now, in the original story, in the original script, in the original play and movie, Frankenfurter is initially presented as sort of a mad scientist. The key element here, of course, is that Frankenfurter is a transvestite from transsexual Transylvania, and played by Tim Curry in the original film, 1970 something. I forget now exactly. Clearly a man in what is traditionally considered women's clothing, a transvestite, in the parlance of the film and the parlance of the time. Now, in this interpretation, the character is played by Laverne Cox, who I believe, it's fair to say, is trans, and is therefore, I think, comfortable with feminine pronouns. I have to be honest, I'm not entirely comfortable with the whole pronoun discussion. I have had my opinion changed over time, and I'm fine, use the pronouns you like. It's just that I don't necessarily want to assign her pronouns, but I have no choice but to use them unless I repeat her name over and over again awkwardly. So I'm going to use her in this case. So what we are presented with in this case, in this production, is a woman in woman's clothing, which is not a transvestite, which is a woman in traditionally women's clothing. Yes, potentially someone who is transsexual. However, that is not a characterization of the character. So this seems to be a misinterpretation of the character to me. But leave that as it may be. That is a location in the original script. Transsexual is located, is the galaxy in which the planet Transylvania is located in the original script, not a characterization of the character. However, so this, I think, is a misinterpretation of the script by the director. But leaving that aside, you've taken away the countersexuality element. You haven't introduced something that is unusual to people, unless you're talking about being trans, which I have a larger problem with, because then you've objectified a trans character in some manner, and that makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't know if that's what was intended, but that's sort of how I came about it. Now, please feel free to respond on that point, but that's how it felt to me. And more importantly than that, the character had no soul. And I blame the director for this, because I know Laverne Cox is a wonderful performer. I've seen her on Orange is the New Black. She's a lot of fun there. Real emotional depth there. So I know the actor can do it. This director, looking back at their previous oeuvre, is also the director of all 3 High School Musical movies for Disney. And I believe, with no evidence to support this, that this person was brought on with the sole mission of taking something that is popular in counterculture and beloved by its fans, and then ignored by anyone who's not its fans, and to make it acceptable, which is 100% counter to the intention of this piece, and that is why I became so inarticulately angry about it, because that is not what you do with theater, that is not what you do with art, and that is not what you do with a reboot, reinterpretation, recreation of a piece of theater or art or beauty or anything. You, yes, put your own spin on it, but you do not neuter it. You do not take away its voice. You add voice. You add your own voice. You add something to it. Allow me to speak directly to this director who will never see this and doesn't care, because motherfucker got paid. But if you're going to reinterpret, modernize Rocky Horror, here is how I would do it as a director. You set it modern. You set it modern. So, you take Eddie, the character who in the 70s appears as a 50s greaser, because that would have been the nostalgic counterculture of the time, and you say, okay, so what is the 20 years ago nostalgic counterculture for today? Grunge, right? Punk, maybe. It's still, punk was a little bit before that, but it's still legitimate. Make Eddie, make Hot Patootie a grunge tune. Rearrange it for that. Make it a punk tune. Make it hard. Do that. Then you've got something valuable. Then you're acknowledging the counterculturalism. Make Brad and Janet, who are the most white bread at the beginning of this play, and evolve into creatures that understand and accept and love their own sexuality. Make them the most white bread, vanilla, common American, not at all anymore gentrified counterculture people you can think of. If I was doing this, I would make them hipsters. Sorry, my friends who are hipsters. You're about as white bread as it gets. So, and I have a little bit of this too, don't get me wrong. I'm totally making fun of myself here too. I'm wearing suspenders today, for the record. I have a beard. So, okay, I understand. I'm part of this problem. I don't consider it a problem. Own it. It's fun. Coffee. Here's my thing. Make them hitters. Find a legitimate interpretation. How much fun would that be? And then they evolve. Make the Transylvanians, who are all over the castle, not some kind of weird costume shop interpretation of what punk is. Make them metal. Make them a real counterculture, a hard metal counterculture. Make them hip-hop. Which isn't really counterculture anymore, it's mass culture. I don't know. Make them something. Make them something that's evocative, that makes the audience say, feel that initial reaction of, oh, that's scary, that's uncomfortable. And then over the course of the film or the play, you evolve your audience the way you evolve Brad and Janet. Brad and Janet are proxies for the audience, or they're supposed to be. In this case, they're not proxies for anything. They're caricatures of the 50s. They're what Donald Trump thinks he wants to make America great into. You know, like, they're one-dimensional caricatures. And that's the director's fault. I blame the directing 100% here. There were a lot of other mistakes. Just a nitpick, the killing of Eddie was the fakest looking stabbing I've ever seen in my life. Then they did the meatloaf joke during dinner, even though that's not meatloaf. They should have done Lambert. I can't credit for that. That was Danny Greenwolf who jumped straight to that. But at least if you're going to do the joke with a reference that's valid. I mean, come on. The initial antagonist is Frankenfurter. Frankenfurter is the antagonist of the piece. But the villains of the piece are supposed to be Magenta and Riff Raff. They're the bad guys because they shut down Frankenfurter's expression. They take it away from him, or her, in this case. There was no shutting down of expression. It was just, we want to kill him, or her, or whatever. We want to kill it. We want to kill this play. I was rooting for them. And I was glad that it was over. And that's not what's supposed to happen. The scene in the pool, which is supposed to be the ultimate expression of everyone's okay with everyone, and we all love this, and we're all friends and lovers and exciting. It wasn't that. It was just weird, mesmeric. I don't know. It wasn't good. Certainly wasn't sexy, which is missing from the whole thing. So I take issue with the directing here. Big time. And now, I know I spoke on a previous one of these Morning Zoo with Ken and the Bear. Hey, Bear. The Bear agrees with me, by the way. About review versus criticism. This is not a review. See it if you want. Please see it, as a matter of fact. Tell me if you agree. I'm sorry it keeps freezing. I don't know. But thanks for watching, Marcia. This is not a review. I'm not trying to tell you to see it or not see it. I'm telling you that critically, this was not a useful piece of theater or film or cinema or art, because it didn't add anything to the conversation. It took away from the conversation. It took away valuable elements from the original to make it more mass market applicable, which is not the intention of the original piece. It is not the intention of the author, and you must maintain intention. You must maintain the legitimacy of the piece itself. You must maintain what the piece is as you find new interpretations. Macbeth is a story about the dangers of power and the dangers of short-sightedness, and it's a story about a lot of things. It's not the story of a revolutionary hero taking away, working with his wife to benevolently take over Scotland. If that's the story you tell, you have failed as a director. And this director failed as a director, in my critical opinion. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. I got to go to work. So, thank you for watching. Hope you're all going to have a wonderful day. It's a beautiful fall day out today. Do something fun if you can. If you can't, have a nice day at work. Do your thing. And maintain the truth. And I'm really interested to hear what everybody has to say, so drop me some comments. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right. Tell me I'm an asshole. Whatever you want. And I hope you have a great day. Bye, guys. This has been Ken and the Bear. Morning Zoo. Woo! All right, bye.